Welcome to our roundtable on careers in education featuring University of Tennessee English alumni Karyn Adams, John Luke Bell, and Sky Smith. We are so excited to be here. Let me take a moment to introduce all of our roundtable participants before we jump into the Q&A. First off, Karyn Adams directs the creative and strategic efforts of HA31, a woman-owned higher ed focused strategy, marketing, and communications firm. Together with the HA31 team, Karyn helps institutions solve problems, reach goals, and exceed their expectations through innovative approaches to communication, enrollment marketing, and institutional initiatives. Throughout nearly 2 decades of experience in higher education, Karyn has served inside the academy in numerous leadership roles and as a consultant and strategist for institutions across the United States. Her specialties include all aspects of communications and marketing, integrated marketing and institutional branding, enrollment initiatives, capital campaigns, website redesigns, public-private partnerships, and crisis communication. In addition to her work in higher ed, Karyn serves as a planning commissioner on the Knox County Planning Commission and is currently a candidate for City Council, District 1, which represents South Knoxville and Fort Sanders. Our next participant is John Luke Bell. Committed to a lifetime of literacy problem solving, John Luke Bell is excited to engage teachers, students, and policymakers in conversations about the future of equitable and excellent education. As as director of curriculum, Dr. Bell is focused on developing high quality instructional materials that help all kids grow as fluent readers, effective writers, and critical thinkers. Luke has served as an English teacher, instructional coach, curriculum coordinator, and design leader across organizations, supporting instructional change at scale. He also contributes to the field with ongoing evaluation and inspection consultation to improve instructional materials, professional learning, and educator preparation programs. Dr. Bell shares inquiry by design's belief that complexity is for everyone and knows when students learn to read, they learn to love reading. He's a proud graduate of the University of Tennessee and Vanderbilt University. And finally, Sky Smith is a native Knoxvillian who, for the past 7 years, has taught English at her high school alma mater, Austin East Magnet High School, from which she graduated in 1995. Growing up in one of Knoxville's inner city, federally funded housing projects, Sky, as she is affectionately known, is a first-generation high school graduate who has also became a first-generation college graduate in her family after successfully completing her undergraduate coursework at the University of Tennessee in 2018. The following year, she went on to earn a master's degree in secondary education right here at the University of Tennessee. After overcoming many obstacles, Sky is working hard towards earning her PhD in educational philosophy, concentrating on social justice education. And yes, you might have guessed it, right here at the University of Tennessee.
Yes.
Sky's ultimate goal is to cultivate students who hope to become educators themselves. She also dreams of opening a cultural and language institute within the Knoxville community. Welcome, alumni! Yay! We are so happy you're here, and we're just so excited to get into learning more about what you've done since graduating, thinking about like the English degree in the workplace, and thinking about all the different things that a career in education might mean. Um, so I want to start today just by asking you a little bit, if you could share a little bit about your time as an English major here at UTK and how your coursework here prepared you for a career in education. And we could start, you could just jump in. We're doing this full popcorn style.
So I guess I'm going first, guys.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm super excited to be amongst this roundtable tonight. So again, thank you, Aaron, once more. Thank you both, doctors. It's just a pleasure to be a part of this table tonight. So my experience at the University of Tennessee as a late student, I entered the English program around the age of 37, and I felt so behind the ball. Just coming from an inner city school during the time where we went through several different bills before the No Child Left Behind that I was not quite aware of. So my experience at the university was awesome. The exposure under my professors made me feel so not excluded. The program was so well developed and diverse. The canon that we studied prepared me in such a way I didn't feel as if, number one, I was a latecomer into the education game. It set me right in motion to become an educator at the right time at Austin East Magnet High School. So I didn't feel like I had done so much um wrong and not pursuing education straight out of high school. I felt like I was right on time in the English program at UT.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
For me, my experience, I showed up at UT mainly for the SEC experience. I was very excited. Born and raised in East Tennessee, went to football games growing up, and I'm like, this is the only place for me.
Oh, I
And
love it.
I just happened into being an English major. Uh,
Mm,
I would take these classes on Appalachian literature or Southern literature or, all the different introductory courses. And I realized, okay, we're talking about stories that sound like the stories I heard on my papa's front porch, right? People are speaking like I speak, and I don't, and that's okay, right? That the types of stories that I hear locally that's literature, right? That's not something that I had experienced in K-12.
yeah.
And so being able to talk about the literary value of the community stories really had an impact on me. And the professors made all the difference. I was in a class and one of my professors realized that I was not a declared English major. This was before all of the computerized system and all of that checks on everyone. And he's like, come with me. And so after that class, walked up to the office and declared. And from there, it was very natural to say, when I was able to learn that stories like the ones I appreciated, community stories, are literature and they're worthy of study, it was very easy for me to say, this is something I would like to tell others about and go into education.
It is very rich. I think at UT, it regardless, and it's good to hear that about your experience, John. It just felt like a family, right? Those professors made you feel like you were supposed to be there. So yeah.
I would say my experience was a little different in that I didn't come for the SEC part. In fact, I live really close to the stadium. Still, I stayed in Knoxville, and I have no problem taking anybody who has tickets and dropping them off right at the game and just let them go. So I really wanted to be an English major. That was what I knew I wanted to do. And I had a focus in creative writing. What I really loved about that experience is that I got to do a thesis as part of that. So I really got to be put through the paces of developing a body of work. And the classes that I had, because they're critique classes, so they're workshop classes, you have to really learn how to reflect about your own work, but also be able to communicate to other people about their work and really look for the things that are great and look for the things that can be improved and understand how to communicate that in a way that is genuinely constructive and productive. That absolutely is a through line to the work that I do today as a creative director, and managing a team of people to help each one of them excel at what they do. It doesn't help if you're just going in and saying, blah. You need to look for, like, what was the motivation for them approaching it in this fashion? And how is that really helping with the ultimate goal here? And like, all of those pieces are things I know that I got through those workshop experiences and through having my work assessed by other people to see, like, okay, I never even viewed it that way. Wow, that's so amazing that that's how someone else perceived this. And I really want to work on this some more to improve my work. So that, plus the dialogue that I had with professors, and I think this, it sounds like Sky and John Luke is a similarity, like the relationship that I was able to develop with the faculty members that I got to have classes with, as individuals and as faculty, And just understanding that, they're people too, and that they're really there. If you want to learn, they are there for you. And that was the thing that I think is really important too about a big university. Because I know some people worry like, oh, will I just be lost? It's such a huge place. And I will tell you that if you make it clear, I'm in your class, this is who I am, and I want to learn, you will have that one-on-one type of mentorship that you are looking for.
Yeah,
You're right. I think that's how I was kind of like, it was kind of like, oh, you're not in the education program, or you're not pursuing your master's here. I'm like, oh wow. It was like I never felt seen before. And for a Black girl, on a campus like the University of Tennessee, and then I felt like an old lady amongst all of those babies, but I felt really seen and not only seen but guided. Like, what's your next step? Where are you going? And I agree with you on the workshops because I teach the way I was taught. So I teach, I would say, critical thinking just because that is the way the workshops were set up when we were, in deep analysis. So I thank you for your comment tonight. Yeah.
I think that's really powerful. The programs were a through line for me as well. I think about the coffee house course
Mm,
in Golden Roast, or drama in New York and drama in
yeah.
London.
Yeah.
And as an English teacher, taking my students back for the Young Writers Conference and engaging with the Stokely Conference on writing as a writing teacher. So I
Mhm.
really think as a student and then as a teacher, the programs that the professors offer in the department is really powerful. So.
Mhm.
That's wonderful, and it's exciting to hear your excitement as well. Each of you is working in very different sectors of education, and I know we had a little bio, but I feel like that's like the business bio. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do, what your day to day looks like in your profession?
Oh, John, you first this time because I
Okay.
went first the last time.
And so, as I shared, I was an English teacher, high school English teacher at the L&N STEM Academy downtown Knoxville. And then I worked in a K-8 school with curriculum materials, and I had the opportunity to work with some early evaluation organizations that started from the ground up. Ed Reports, if you're familiar with HQIM, they're a
Mhm.
consumer report style organization that helps K-12 schools and leaders understand the quality of the materials they select.
Mhm.
So, working with that evaluation organization, I realized we're doing a great disservice to K-12 students and their teachers by providing low quality instructional materials. And no wonder students are not enjoying reading because they are not functional readers. And
Mhm.
so we learn to read, we can learn to love reading. And so I wanted folks to have the similar experience. So my day to day now is really a product of the HQIM movement for high quality instructional materials and the science of reading movement focused on what we know works to get literacy outcomes. And so it may be writing a lesson, selecting a text, or providing teacher guidance, developing ongoing learning to improve teacher moves so that we see those benefits for students. And all of that at scale. Traded the classroom, which is a very deeply impactful position within the hearts of students to think about what happens if we change one text and
Mhm.
increase the diversity of our instructional materials at scale, or what happens if we improve our teacher guidance for how we understand the brain acquires reading, and we can make that change at scale. So that's the day to day for me, and sometimes it's copy editing, and other days it's design and layout design and thinking about which image serves students and teachers best.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I think it's just really fair for me to hop right in behind you because I'm a classroom teacher, of course, at this time still in the midst of the discussions about what are we doing that is effective versus what has been done that was not so effective. So, John, yeah, HQIM, thank you, brother. And guys, continue to fight forward for us. I think um, my experiences day to day are really rich in a way that I get to choose. how I get to cultivate the next generation of front runners for our country, because that's what the writers are. And I focus on more of them being in charge of their own narratives. So I empower them through literature. I hate to say it that I'm now saying rest in peace to Dorothy Allison, because one of her quotes, literature is equipment for living. It focused my life. It focused my journey. I can't say that I come from a place where um, we were experiencing literature. We were just going to place, and it was more grammar, and I wasn't taught to love literature, and I wasn't taught to critically think about the themes within literature. So I take it very serious that students at the level, once they enter my classroom as freshmen, that their perspectives towards English language arts has now changed from, oh, we're reading, to deep analysis. And I like to focus them on, my perspective. No one writes just to write. So we are always reading with some type of purpose. And I feel like I'm most effective in the world that I come from, in the classroom at this point, because I feel so hopeless in other realms and creating, this rich fabric where we're adding on to democracy. So I feel like my entire life I've had to fight in so many different ways, but now I teach students how to fight with the pen, how to fight critically thinking, and I teach them self-determination. So I'm just so richly in debt to literature, to English. Yeah, how about that? I love it.
Right. So my day to day is very different day to day, but that is something I really like. I told the group just before the recording started, I'm in New York today. I'm going to be presenting to a board tomorrow about yield strategies. That has a really specific meaning in higher ed. And how I got into higher ed is like, that's probably not the most direct direct line. After I graduated, I was hired at a tech startup, and they needed a producer and a writer, and they needed one that had experience in Atlanta, and I'd lived in Atlanta for a while, so I fit the bill. I did not have, and I think this is really important, I did not have every single skill set that was in the job description that was put out there. Okay. And I think a lot of young people will look at a long list of job description bullet points and think, well, I can't do all of that. And it's really important to know that most people who are hiring, they're trying to get everything plus the kitchen sink. And so they're going to put it all in there because they've had to fight hard for this position and these dollars. So they're going to ask for all of it. But there are probably some like core things in there that are non-negotiable. You got to have those, but other parts are negotiable. They're looking for the right person who has not just the skill set, but the gravitas, the critical thinking, like you said, Sky, to come in and do that job. So I got one of those positions. Like I had the Atlanta part, I had the writer part. I hadn't been a producer before. So that's the part I got to learn. After that whole stint in high tech, I went into higher ed and was a VP for marketing communications at a small private liberal arts institution. And I learned so much. But I didn't have the flexibility that I wanted. And at a certain point in my life, when I had small kids, like that flexibility became the coin of the realm. I really needed that. So I took a huge leap of faith and did not have a complete plan. I had my core skill set. Like I knew I was a communicator. I knew I was a writer, was hoping I could do something with that. But when I left the administration of that institution, they said, hey, what if you consulted with us instead of just leaving? And I didn't think that was an option, but it was. So I did that for a year, and during that year realized that all of that stuff I'd learned about higher ed, there was a market for that. And so I thought, I'm going to do this. And I combined those things and started a company. I had not started a company before. So, it's just, I think that it's real easy to look at where someone is, whether it's where John Luke is or Sky is or where I am, and think, oh, they had that figured out. And at least speaking for myself, I did not. It was a mini series of, attempts, leaps of faith, failures, and then, finding that thing that worked. But that's how I got into the position I'm in. I founded the company and then began working with institution after institution and grew the team. So now my day consists of, like today, I've worked on the presentation for the board meeting that's tomorrow. I've worked with a team at another institution talking about social media channels and access there, along with digital asset management enterprise systems and how all of that can, I mean, I can see John Luke laughing like, oh yeah, I have to deal with this stuff too.
Yeah.
But the great part of it is just getting to communicate and help solve problems and understand what all those other problems are. And it's that communication factor and that critical thinking, I think, that you learn as an English major that threads throughout all of it. So if you had asked me when I was an English major, would I be doing what I'm doing now? This job did not exist then. So I wouldn't have known, but I definitely can draw the through line now, and really am thankful for the opportunities that I've been given throughout my career, but also those core skills that let me know, like, hey, you've got the chops to do this. Give it a try.
I love it, Dr. Kern, that you said core skills, because that is one thing when I talk to students. I teach English to freshmen, but I also teach creative writing. So it gives me access to the whole school population as they enter into creative writing as an elective. But when they are thinking about English, I think coming from that traditional setting of the way public school pushes that discipline, it's just like they feel so boxed in, or I can't wait to get through high school, I'm never going to use this, or where am I going with it? And just like you said, when we open up that new world, like, hey, you can do this, you can do that. If you have great thinking skills, if you're a great writer, if you know how to take other people's thoughts and ideas and put that into language. And I always try to show them why English, or why it's ELA, why is language arts. So I would love to like really have you do something to where you expose your walk to this company. Like, this is big, gigantic. I'm not sure if you're understanding what your testimony could do for high school students, because I don't think they look at English like, hey, this is a globe changer. If I can do this, hey, I can really do anything if I'm a great communicator and I'm a great analyzer. So I think you really want to look at what you guys are doing, Karyn, and kind of like make it student friendly and like go out into a different demographic, because I think what you're doing is gigantic. And I'm saying it from a little Black girl being in a place that had all this different talent and skill set, but didn't know, number one, that I had it, number two, where I could go and use it. And right now, beyond the classroom, I do so many things in my community that like write different legal documentations for my friends that may be in trouble with, I would have had trouble with the law, or dealing with parole issues, and just helping different nonprofit organizations get started up in my community. So like, what you can do if you have those core foundational skills is amazing. Thank you for your story. It's powerful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love what you're both saying about, like, these skills that the English major, that's built into the English major, right? That
Yeah.
communicating, writing, and the ways in which those core skills can work in so many different fields. And because we always joke, in when we're talking about careers, is like, nobody asks a nursing major what they're going to do when they graduate, right? So by not having that career in the title of what we do is both terrifying and extremely liberating because we're not hemmed into a specific thing because we can do so many different things. Which leads me to my next question. So how do you feel that the skills that you learned as an English major and the classes like literature, creative writing, or technical writing prepared you for the work that you've done? I know some of you have addressed this kind of obliquely, but if you want to maybe address it directly.
It's your turn to go first, Dr. Karyn.
Woo. Okay, I am going to say that, let's see, literature, creative writing, and or technical writing prepare you for your work in your field. So I did not do much with technical writing when I was there. I knew of that area of study, and I kind of was like, what exactly is that? And one of my roommates pursued that, and she ultimately went on to get a law degree. So, that's the track that she took from technical writing. I was in literature and creative writing, and the things that I can directly relate those to, I mean, I've already talked about that learning how to critique your own work, how to critique others' work. But I also think that there's something that is so valuable with literature, and that is empathy. That is being able to understand another person's perspective. And I think that is just it is so undervalued. People know it when it's not there, but they have a hard time putting their finger on it as to what it really allows a person to do. And to have the experience of literature, to be able to walk in someone else's shoes, to be able to have this experience in that reflective way with literature, making something tangible, enables you as an English major to go out into a field, whether it's the person you're sitting beside at your office, or whether it's you're on assignment and you're trying to, you're doing a report and you need to interview someone. Like, you now have some kind of basis to engage with that other person in a way that is more than the box that you might have been in before. So I think that avenue to empathy is just foundational with this degree. And the other is inquiry. In the UT English department and pursuing that, I was encouraged to ask questions. These were not classes of like 300 people in an auditorium. These were smaller classes where if you weren't engaged, I mean, it's kind of like, what are you doing over there? Like, come on, speak up. So the act of inquiry and being able to ask questions and just go, I don't get it, or, help me. One more, and I apologize, I'm going on, but there was a class that I remember taking, and it was the first time that I had been forced by a professor to argue for the perspective that I did not agree with. And that was hard. That was so hard. It was, again, a path to empathy, but also really forced me to assess, why do I think what I think, when I had to go to another side of an issue through the literature and argue for the text in that way. And I was mad. That day. Like, why did he make me do that? I do not feel that way. But afterwards, I realized, wow, what a powerful experience. And, what a challenge as a professor to push students to do that. So all of those things absolutely affect how I inquire today, how I feel comfortable raising my hand if I'm the first person and saying, like, what, I've got a question, I didn't catch that, or can you go back? And just having that empathy to open my own perspective, even if it's something that I don't agree with, to spend a little more time there and try to understand it.
Yeah, I really appreciate all three of those. Those are wonderful and very similar to how my world functions. I think for me, the literature focus, I did take a few creative writing classes, but majority literature, it really helped me understand how to be a critical consumer of everything. right? So beyond work, just life, how to understand truth from fiction. How do I understand and like you said, empathize with someone sharing their opinion and not necessarily dismiss it, even though I may react to it? How can I take the time to slow down and understand what they're saying? Um, and being able to, like I said, you're taking the time to listen and then respond, being able to craft careful responses, whether that's orally or written. And I often talk about this with my team. It's very easy to complicate something. It is exceptionally hard to simplify something. And being able to speak precisely and simply simplicity is equity, but it is extreme skill, right, to be able to do that. And so I would agree with those first two pieces. With the empathy perspective, that for me is all about how I help grow individuals and a team. Right. I was not equipped directly by a business program. I didn't learn about corn fair competencies or agile frameworks or product or project management through any particular programs. Those came as a result of this close attention to the human condition through literature and understand how do you work with people and how do you support individuals and teams as they grow. And so for me, leading a successful design team has a lot to do with how you understand and relate to others and understand their story. And that leads me to the piece I work with the most, which is storytelling. I often say in the age of AI, where anyone or anything can write, only humans can tell stories.
Mhm.
And so a lot of my research since UT has been around corporate storytelling and how that impacts businesses' ability to achieve their goals, but also help individuals achieve their goals along the way. And so stories are not just what we read in literature or what we craft in a communication or a bit of social media, but they're representative of our lives and how we learn. Stories are one of the greatest ways that we can help others learn. So, whether that's teaching in a classroom or teaching in the workplace, those skills from literature, they keep going for me.
All right. I think you guys are a hard act to follow. Oh my gosh. So I just kind of took down some pointers, Aaron, to kind of like piggyback off both the doctors. Empathy. Again, Dorothy Ellison, literature is equipment for living. I did have a literature focus. I was drawn to creative writing because naturally I'm a poet. I think I was a poet before I knew what poetry was. I grew up around hip hop and I like to use it to teach students that you're naturally writers, period. And I teach them how poetry how rap starts out as poetry. So when we talk about that creative focus, it allows you to break down the ice where they're so scared to write. So even when I'm starting out with new writers, I start out with poetry so they don't feel so boxed in. That's that creative writing side. On the inquiry side, it taught me to ask questions. In Black households, a lot of times it was children ought to be seen and not heard. So you didn't ask a lot of questions. Once I got to UT, I was real good on contributing to the discussion. I wasn't real big on asking questions because I had been shut down so much in life. But in those classes, I was forced to sit back with the text and question the text. They taught me to question the text, to question the text to myself, question the text to the world. These were things where I was always a good reader in school and I was naturally a writer. I was never taught to question anything. So even as an adult, it gave me it empowered me in such a way that I would leave school and I would break off certain relationships because now I was questioning my value to myself and these characters and stories. And it was okay for girls to like say no and like have a plan for themselves. So like even as an adult, I did not have these skills when it came to societal inquiry. And I could look at these characters in this book and I'm like, yeah, I was walking in another person's shoes. So again, it taught me to relate to others and not just a way where I could equip them with wisdom. It taught me to relate to them in a way where I could gain wisdom from them. And I came from a place where questioning and showing people what you did not know could cost you your life. So I didn't have that skill set even as an adult. I was very observant. I could pick up things observant, but I would have to figure it out. I would never ask you a question. So the university helped me with inquiry, also storytelling, powerful. Just like you said, everybody has should find value in their own voice. And that is one thing that I teach from and get kids to like, hey, add to the discussion because your voice is needed, it's necessary, it's valuable. UT taught me accountable talk. I took that English department tool to Austin East, and also at maybe my early 2 years, I taught public speaking and debate there. So when you talk about having to critically think and then use what you know in an art, that language, that skill set from literature, being open to the genre. I was not open to a genre. So I took the literature focus so that I could gather so much wisdom to have this forefront on how thinkers think. And from that platform, I was able to teach students to become thinkers, and the writing part just came naturally, guys. So yeah. Also, it taught me to collaborate beyond my comfort zone. And I use that in the classroom. So now to be called to a round table, maybe I would have been shy from because like, okay, I wasn't equipped to feel valued in my voice. So UT pushes you in such a way the where you're going to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I teach my students that as well through that dialogue, that communication, that accountable talk, being able to listen to understand and not just listen to respond gives you a comfort and a perspective to say, hey, yeah, I should be here. I do have the knowledge, and it doesn't have to be the same as the other people in the room for it to be valuable. And UT is a place where your voice is seen as being valued at that table and necessary. I hope I didn't talk too long.
No, that was wonderful from everybody. I just my little English heart is just all aflutter right now. So, on a slightly like kind of transitioning to a slightly more practical side, I suppose. What do you wish you had known as an undergrad or as a recent graduate going into your particular, or who might be interested in going into your particular field of education?
I guess I'll jump in, guys, right now. Because I think we did really well with just being respectful to each other and like following a rich, like, hey, you go first, you go first. But I think I don't think I wish I had known anything. My not knowing is what made it so authentic. So if I had come in expecting something, I could maybe have been disappointed, or maybe if I came in not expecting something, I could, I just came in and I was just so open and I wasn't disappointed. So I don't wish I had known anything because it led me. It's almost like Dr. Kern said, I didn't have a blueprint. My everyday authentic walk in the English department is why Miss Sky is Miss Sky at Austin East Magnet School today. Had I known anything else, I probably would have been an attorney, or I could have thought technical writing. I could have thought it was just like, hey, just get out here. And my everyday, I met a professor in a discussion that led me to another day and a different experience. And it was just so rich in not knowing. Yeah.
I think for me, just how evergreen and versatile the English major is, right? I think I had some idea of, I could go this direction, or, law school, like Karen was saying, that's another direction, but truly, publishing, producer, directing companies, medical field, all the different ways our graduates, come out. I had no idea really, right? Not that
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with teaching. I would go back in a heartbeat, but I think I started with maybe a narrow view, and that's why it took me longer to commit to the major because I thought this is there's one or two options, right? Instead of English major maybe being one of the most evergreen majors a university can offer.
Yeah.
When like I said, in my work, there's a lot of conversation about AI and what will AI do to the future of our work. And when we think about the future of work, I'm more convinced than ever about the future of the English major and the English department. I think it only grows in value. So how evergreen it is, that was something that would have been very important for me. And then the other half of that is how to convey that to others. Right. Maybe I was convinced about the English major, but I really didn't know the convoluted steps that one could take from the English classroom to the type of work I do today. Very similar to Karyn's role. It was not a direct shot. There were several part-time gigs, side gigs, and oh, I heard you're doing this. Can I help? Or hey, what does it mean to be a consultant? I don't even know what that means, right? And then realizing, oh, I can do that, and then it worked its way into a full-time role,
Yeah.
and being okay with that. So it's sort of the two sides of that coin, knowing that it's evergreen and then knowing how to convey to others that it's an evergreen major.
You empower me, John, because sometimes I can get so bombarded with the AI talk in school. And I'm like, hey, when I get these students, they don't even know how to think yet. There is no way I'm talking about AI. I mean, I introduce them to it on a certain level, but it's just like I need you thinking first. So like what's your quote? People tell stories, not
Yeah, in an age of AI where anyone or anything can write and still that thinking, only humans can tell stories, right? We have to
That's
craft.
that's, that's what I gotta stand on that right there. You empowered me because of the very era that we are in. So I know again, like I said, I felt like I could have felt like I was late down UT, but even this round table right here tonight, you guys let me know I was right on time. Thank you, Dr. John.
The things that I think that I wished I had known, it's not so much going into the field, but that I wish I'd known as an undergrad and graduate, because it took me a long time to figure this out, is that when someone says, when they ask you what you're doing, what are you doing now? What are you interested in? And they say, oh, I've got someone you might want to talk to. They're serious. Like, take them up on it. They're not trying to make you feel good. Like, they genuinely are trying to connect you to their network. And that the whole concept of a discovery call or a discovery interview, I did not know what that was. And I think that those are some of the most powerful tools for someone who is even not in transition for stuff, but is just thinking about options or curious. Like,
Yeah.
to sit down with someone, Sky, John Luke, Aaron, me, for 30 minutes and just like ask some questions, like, that is a gold mine, because that will take you to that next thing. It will give you ideas. It will tell you, oh, that's not what I want to do. Like, and the next best thing to a yes is a no,
I
just
love it.
knowing. So I think if I wish that I could, send back some knowledge, I would send back, like, discovery interviews are a thing. People really enjoy doing them. They like meeting other people. They like sharing what they do or asking questions, because if you're a young person or a recent graduate, you've just been exposed to a whole world of knowledge that has been, getting updated and tweaked and tuned probably much more recently than that person has been exposed to. So when you're talking with them, you're giving them a chance to tap into your special area of knowledge as well. And people like that. So don't be afraid to take those opportunities, or just to ask for them. Like, I want to talk to a teacher at Austin East. I'm going to call up. I see her in the directory. I'm just going to call her and I'm going to ask, may I have a discovery interview with you? Because she's probably going to say yes. And you're going to get
Dr. Karyn, you know what? Say this was important because I get called all the time like that. Didn't know that was what they were doing.
That's right.
Hey, Karyn, I want to add on to that and just say the importance of mentorship. You remind me of one of my favorite sayings that for me is a closed mouth doesn't get fed, right? What's the worst thing that's going to happen is somebody tell me no. And for me, that's been my entire transition post working in public schools. It's been entirely empowered by network. I've not had a job that I applied for blindly. I've been recommended to a role, or it's been a job that wasn't even posted that I learned about through the power of mentor. And so, I think a lot of folks that were around, whether that's a professor or a university partner or alumnus, they are willing to be a mentor if they're not already signed up. Like you said, Karyn, ask them. The worst they can say is, "Sorry, I'm busy right now, but hey, this person may be able to help you." Right? I think that's
I
very
love
real.
it. I love it, guys. You know what? I feel so tremendously blessed by this roundtable talk because it gave me a chance to reflect on something else that the university has done to me or for me. I get a lot of speaking engagements. I get a ton of people to say, Sky, will you sit on this panel? Miss Sky, will you can you come speak here? Will you write a poetry piece here? Will you? And I just know after talking to you guys tonight that my name is in way more places than my body has ever walked through the door. Because Miss Dr. Karyn, you just made me smile because sometimes I'm like, okay, and we met where, and I know you from where, because I get calls like that all the time, guys, or email or somebody popping up at Austinese and say, I need to talk to Miss Guy.
I love all this, and I love that you also all presaged my final question. So, which was to offer some advice, but I think everything that y'all have given here has been just so wonderful. I guess I want to wrap up with just any final words of wisdom for students or recent graduates who might be interested in going into the field of education.
My words of advice would be very, very, very open-minded. Even as an educator and taking students down to the University of Tennessee's College of Communications, I was so floored by the opportunities that young writers or young people could go into from having that English background. So be open, like Dr. John and Dr. Karyn said, ask questions, sit down with people, get a different perspective on what an English degree can do for you, not just the degree itself, the shaping of your mindset, coming from a department that pushes or that is foundational strategies deal with critical inquiry. So it is going to develop and shape your mind to participate in the world of AI. In Dr. John's voice, people tell stories in English background will ensure that we are still front runners in this new era.
Yeah, I would say there's no time limit on connection. I've reconnected via email or at the Clarence Brown or wherever with professors a decade later, and there's no time limit. So if you're someone thinking I'm just trying to graduate, right,
Yeah.
or I'm just trying to get this to my first job, there's no time limit on connection, and so don't feel like you have to do it all today or directly upon graduation. Reaching out and getting reconnected with the department or those resources is something I think you have a lifelong access to with the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
I would just say the greatest asset is curiosity. And to be able to bring that to the field of education, however you might choose to engage with it, you will be well served. So, just to keep that curiosity fire alive, because it is the thing that will guide you to those new conversations, the new ideas, intersectionality, interdisciplinary stuff, like just keep the curiosity alive.
I love it.
That's wonderful, y'all. Thank you all so, so much for your time and your wisdom and your energy tonight. Thank you for all you do for our community. And I really appreciate getting to spend this hour with you and learning more about what you do and how you engage in the education field. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Guys, you were awesome. Thank you. It did not feel like an hour with you guys, so we must do this again.
Absolutely.